Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of
Kiddo.
My name is Hans
I'm Edward.
and we are your hosts for now and forevermore.
Or until Hans becomes a Pokemon master and leaves me home alone.
Listen, y'all must know that is on the agenda and I will drop Edward the moment the opportunity arises if I can have my own Pokemon.
Yeah, I actually can see that happening.
If you are new to Gettle, welcome to one of the internet's favorite podcasts for gaming, entertainment, technology, and lifestyle, all wrapped up in a wonderful
Geeky watermelon, because I've got a song in my stuck in my
That's
head.
something.
Which I really don't want stuck in my head.
Welcome everybody. If you're one of our usual listeners, welcome back, bitches. So this is technically Gettle 48, Season 2, Episode 6. And boy, do Edward and I have some luscious topics to discuss with you all today. But before we get to that, as per usual, Edward, how are you doing?
I'm good. Can't complain. It's the usual life getting old, falling apart. You know, you're the royal.
Gosh, don't even get me started.
See, I knew you were going to say that.
Just much like our previous episode, we're just going to leave those things undiscussed.
It's better that way.
Alrighty, let's get straight into some reviews and previews. Edward, you've been reviewing some video games, which we alluded to in a previous episode, but this week you're going to lead us through some of them in a little more detail.
Okay, so previously we spoke about both Super Mario World 3D plus Bowser's Fury and Persona 5. Now, those are just 2 games. Never mind the long-ass names.
And never mind the 500 other games Edward is currently still load balancing amongst different platforms as well.
I'm trying, okay. So starting with Super Mario World, it's just a remaster of a 7-year-old game. There's nothing more to say about it other than I do like how varied it is. It's got like 100 as
That
stages.
is a lot.
And
that is a lot.
Yeah, it's huge. It's one of the biggest Mario games I've ever played, and I've played Odyssey. So there's that. And then it also has a brand new expansion called Bowser's Fury, which I centered most of my review on, actually,
Correct,
since it's new. And that's short. Compared to Mario World, Bowser's Fury is only like 7 hours or so.
Which is still, I mean, let's be fair here. For a modern video game, that's decent. Hey?
Yeah, that's the average modern video game.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We would love it if things were longer. Of course, if you talk about a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, right, which has like hundreds of hours of gameplay, that's because it's so open-ended. I'm assuming the game that you're speaking about now is not as open-ended, correct? So
no.
After those 7 hours, do you want to go back?
It's too linear to go back.
Okay, fair enough.
I would say credit to its replayability is the power-ups you get, because as you all know, in Mario, you get power-ups that make Mario big, that makes him change skins.
I'm immediately thinking of, bumping the blocks and then eating the
little bricks. Yeah.
If you want to know what eating mushrooms is like, make sure to have a look at Season 2, Episode 5.
Oh, there we go. Ooh, plugins. I like that. And yeah, it's too short and linear to actually go back, in my opinion.
All right.
I did like the change of camera, though. It's more third person now, and it's more scary now.
Scary?
But it's not
for a Mario
horror game. Yeah, it plays off in the dark. And you go through these linear levels, tiny open spaces instead of huge stages, for like 7 hours, and then you beat a Fury Bowser is what his name is. And let me just say, it's basically just Gigantamax Bowser.
Listen, I know that
new Pokemon
like
evolution.
you usually say that as if it's not an amazing thing. I kind of like Gigantamax Pokemon. So if it's a Gigantamax Bowser that we have to deal with, sounds interesting to me.
Personally, to me, I think Gigantamax is just a little bit of a gimmick. I would love it if they actually had proper evolutions past the
Okay,
final
that's
evolution.
Pokemon now. But back to Super Mario. I'm actually curious.
Yes.
Do you think that this Bowser's Fury add-on is a taste of things to come?
Maybe. I don't think we'll ever get a game like this, other than maybe Luigi's Mansion. But I do think that the expansion thing with the remaster, that's something I really want to see
More
all the way, every time.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to get a remaster of an old game. Okay, whatever, fine. Everyone's doing it now. But getting that plus extra content and a brand new module of content, I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Look, the little bit that I've seen of it, so going on from the same question that I just posed you now, I have a feeling it is very much a taste of what we will see for future Super Mario games, mainly because it emulates a little bit of the tech that we've seen in the previous Super Mario World. I think the one that launched on Switch, the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So either way, you enjoyed it, right? And you'd give it out of EGAD?
I would say it's good. I mean, it's not exceptional. I'm not one to think about the Mario games as perfect games at all, even though the entire world seems to think they are.
That's just Nintendo in general.
But yeah, for a Mario game, it's one of the better ones. And also, I will mention this, which I forgot to mention just now. It is not a limited release, which I hate Nintendo is doing.
Yes.
So for the 35th, Mario
35th
anniversary. All of the previous releases, the remasters we've been getting, were limited releases, which means Nintendo will release them and then redraw them. So you can't buy them anymore.
Yeah, that in itself is a very strange business practice. And weirdly enough, I actually do want to speak about that a little bit later on in the episode. We're going to be broaching NFTs. And if you don't know what that is, make sure you stay tuned because it's a very, very interesting conversation.
Yeah, so this one is not a limited release, which I think that's better, in my opinion. It's more consumer friendly. You can buy it whenever you want.
Naturally.
You don't need to save up for it. Yeah. You don't need to hold on to some cash until it releases, So, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, and then
cool.
The second game.
Yeah?
Yeah. Moving on, because I've been speaking about Mario for so long now. Persona 5 is a fun game. It's so fun. Persona 5 Strikers is equally as fun, but now this is where the issues come in.
Okay, wait. Before you carry on, because I'm a noob here, right?
Yeah.
What is Persona 5?
Okay, so Persona 5, all the Persona games are JRPGs. They are they mix I forgot the genre. But the visual novel, they mix visual novel with RPG. So
now you have my interest, actually.
Yes, so essentially you can walk around maps. It's big stages. Most of them are set in Japan. Persona 5 is set in Shibuya, and it's just a big open world RPG essentially. Obviously, open world doesn't mean the same thing that it meant when Final Fantasy IV was released. But you still have the entire Japan. In Persona, you have things called metaverses, which is essentially this other universe inside the reality, which changes everything.
Okay.
Now, it concerns itself with the Phantom Heart gang, which is just this group of high school teenagers.
Is that Persona in general, or are we talking about Strikers now?
Well, that's Persona 5 so far. Okay. Now, the reason I'm mentioning Persona 5 so much is because you need the lead up. Otherwise, you won't know anything.
You see, this was my point. Now, as somebody who's never played a Persona title before, and now hearing of Persona 5 Strikers, it's, this is why I wanted the distinction, the clarification between why, anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so it's good you want this because you see Persona 5 Strikers and you see this brand new marketing around it, which is, it's this all new hack and slash game. It's this all new fighting game and everything's different. So immediately you think, so this is a good entry point. It is not.
Yeah.
Persona 5 Strikers is a direct sequel to Persona 5 without any context. There is
What?
no easy way for a newcomer to find out what the game is about, to see who these characters are. There are no
Yeah.
backstories.
So is it? I mean, I might be getting ahead of myself now, but could it have been like DLC in a way?
No, I think it's big enough to not be DLC, and it's
No, well,
removed enough to not be DLC.
yeah, okay. What I mean by that is not in terms of its size, just in terms of like if you needed to play Persona 5 to play Persona 5
Yeah.
Strikers, it kind of feels like that should have been a glorified add-on. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I get what you mean. It like an expansion.
Yes,
almost, I
yes.
would
There we
say.
go. Expansion's probably a better
But
term.
the thing is, the gameplay it's wildly different from Persona 5. Everything is different, but it's still Persona. I can't explain it other than the fact that it still feels like Persona, it still plays like Persona.
But it's not
Persona. Yes, but instead of doing this over-the-top JRPG thing, you're now doing this Devil May Cry thing, which is walking around, hacking and slashing, getting combos, defeating lots of enemies at once instead of just the usual turn-based combat. It sounds great and it feels great. It plays well. My only issue with it is the fact that you do need context from Persona 5. And that's the case, if you want to go back and you want to play that, I would recommend Persona 5 Royals, since that is the most complete edition of Persona 5.
Okay, interesting. So it's not necessarily an add-on. It is a full-featured game, which is quite different, but it's built on the Persona 5 universe. And if you haven't played Persona 5, you're going to be at a loss for playing Persona 5 Strikers. So in that sense, it might ostracize newer players, but then is it good fan service for somebody who's enjoyed Persona 5?
It's a good sequel. It takes place a few months after Persona 5. It brings back the same protagonists, and you are playing them in a chronological order. Okay. So yes, I would say for fans of Persona 5, this is a must play.
But it would have been nice if there was a previously on.
Yes, a previously on, or some kind of just, oh, you are this guy. I remember you from when we did this. The usual thing sequels tend to do, like I remember Mass Effect 2. It had this entire awkward ass conversation with Jacob, while bullets are flying. It had this conversation about, oh, where am I? Who am I? Why are we doing this? Persona 5 Strikers has nothing of that.
Okay.
And
all right.
I just wish it had more of that. Otherwise,
it's
a great game. It's great. It's a good game. Okay. It's again not exceptional. Too many flaws. And also there are better RPGs, in my opinion, out there.
Do you want to give a quick example?
Like Monster Hunter.
I just knew you were going to say it because the new Monster Hunter Rise is coming out on Switch now.
Yes, I honestly cannot wait. And also, it's been announced for PC as well. So
good.
I am actually super excited for that as well.
That's probably where you'll play, I imagine.
Probably. Most likely, yes.
All right. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Okay.
Yeah, that's the two big ones I've been playing this week.
And there are a few more in the background. I think what we would rather do is instead of even talking about them, we just need you to know there's more coming. Because what sometimes happens on our end is like we'll talk about the game in a preview and then we feel like we've partially reviewed it already.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to the hardware side of things. For those of you who watched the video of Season 2, Episode 5, you would have seen a small little white ball in the background. That, for the eagle-eyed viewers, is a HomePod Mini. Now, there is no secret that I am a big fan of the HomePod. I have been since the beginning. I had a variety of them in my home before it burnt down, and then I proceeded to purchase more for my apartment. And to me, the HomePod is an exceptional smart speaker. It provides incredible audio that is well worth the price. Siri is decent. I mean, she's not as good as Google, for example, but given how she doesn't submit everything to online servers, I do feel that she's more of a privacy-centered approach to a smart speaker. Now, as much as I love the original HomePod, and I truly do, unfortunately, Apple has cancelled it, allegedly. I mean, who knows? Maybe there'll be a newer HomePod coming out. Nobody's too sure just yet, but they have cancelled.
Could you say it again?
but they have cancelled the current one. For those of you who heard that, that was just Siri going off in the background because that's just how she is. She is listening. Even though she's not transmitting, but she is listening. Now, as I said, the HomePod has been cancelled, but the HomePod Mini is now here, seemingly to stay. Now, the big difference between the two is where you'd buy a HomePod for sound, and bear in mind, they were even Dolby Atmos capable, which is really incredible for the size and the performance and the price. The HomePod Mini is more of a let's put an assistant in every room kind of situation versus something you would buy to have room-filling sound. And I guess, looking at the size and looking at the name, you would expect that. With that said, I will admit that the audio is quite good. It's on par, if not maybe slightly better than the UE Wonderboom, which is honestly one of my all-time favorite portable speakers. I mean, that thing, if you're looking for something that you want to go out of the house with, if anybody is even leaving the house anymore, to the beach or to travel, to anything with, to drop it, put it in water, whatever the case is, the Wonderboom 2, I think is the latest one, is absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, back to HomePod Mini. It's a great device. I think for the $100 price tag, which works out to almost 2,000 Rand, it is well worth it, in my opinion, especially coming from a smart speaker perspective. And I would give it a good rating. The only reason why I would maybe miss out on rating it as exceptional is purely from a sound perspective. Going from the HomePod, which I would say is an exceptional speaker device, I would have liked a bit more audio from the Mini. But then again, like I said, given how small it is, and it really is tiny, I mean, it's the size of like a tennis ball, what it can perform is really, really very good. And price-wise, it hits the ballpoint. And I think maybe that's why Apple is going to continue with the Mini versus the previous HomePod. Now, the other Apple device, many of you will be aware that I've been using for a while, and I'm currently using it right now if you're watching the video, are the Apple AirPods Max. And I'm just going to go into it. These are phenomenal. These are the best earphones I have ever owned. And that's not a stretch. These things are really, I use them almost on the daily. They're comfortable. The battery is insane. I mean, you can charge it for 5 minutes, if that, and it can last you several hours. But on general, I maybe charge it once a week. And that's like with hours of usage daily. Like when we record Gettle, I generally maybe have only lose about 3 or 4% battery after about 2 to 3 hours. And bear in mind, that's now using the functionality with the noise cancellation on. I'm obviously hearing Edward, not the microphone per se right now, but overall, I've not had another pair of headphones that can do that. The construction is fantastic. It is very comfortable on the top with the mesh band. I like the stainless steel, look of the, I don't know what you'd call it, the band, I guess, right? That comes down to the earpieces. Although the earpieces themselves are aluminium. Now, with that said, as beautiful as the design is and as great as it works, there are some really dumbass decisions that Apple made with this thing. First of all, lack of USB-C. I don't know what y'all be thinking. That's just stupid, all right? Considering how my MacBook, my iPad, and a variety of other devices have around the house, even the screen that I'm using right now, which I'll be speaking about in a future episode, is all USB-C capable. So to not have this USB-C, it just means that I now have to have an extra cable, given how my phones charge wirelessly. And so does my watch. So I don't even use Lightning for them. So why they use Lightning for this headset, nobody knows. Anyway, the other thing is the bra that it comes with, which is the case in particular that we're talking about. This thing very much feels like an afterthought. It allegedly puts the AirPods Max into a low power state, but it doesn't cover it. It doesn't offer any protection. And worst of all, it's misaligned in terms of the cutouts. So like when you want to plug the power in, you literally have to move the AirPod in the case. I don't know what Fong Hong person designed this, but it's very un-Apple-like. All right. So that's that. In terms of the casing, again, because of the aluminium sides, one other weird thing to note is that if you turn the earpieces inward, they actually bump off each other. So that introduces the possibility of maybe scratching your AirPods Max at a later stage. That's a bit of a downer as well. Look, overall though, because I don't want to speak about this too much, it is an incredible pair of headphones. Um, I can exclusively say that they are phenomenal, not just for music, but for movies. And I would say that they're exceptional, honestly. Even for the 12,000 Rand price, I believe you get what you pay for, especially if you're in the Apple ecosystem, which I am. Now, if I wasn't in the Apple ecosystem, I would probably pick something else, maybe like the Sony XM4s or the new Bose. But because I'm in Apple's ecosystem, this the ease of use of switching between my Mac, my phone, my iPad, even my Apple TV is next level. And
That's
with
cool.
my Apple TV on the mind and movies on the mind, there is a very special movie that I binged last night, thinking I wouldn't be able to do it in time for Gettle, but I did for y'all. Edward didn't, but that's beside the point. And so,
Of course. Of course.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Woo, I can hear the cheers going.
Listen. For those of you who have been listening for a long time, you will know that I am quite a harsh critic when it comes to almost anything that I review. Now, Edward and I have in the past, and weird enough, this happened before Gettle. Oh, I would have loved if we had Gettle back then. We often have differences of opinion when it comes to movies. Not necessarily games and other media, but specifically to do with movies. And I think that's just everybody has different taste. And I would imagine it's just got to do with the fact that Edward, and please, if I'm speaking out of turn, Edward, you can correct me. But Edward is somebody who will enjoy something just for enjoyment's sake. Right? I mean, I'm not saying that you don't have criteria for things that you watch, but I just mean like you could have something on and see the good in it regardless of what I would then think is absolute trash.
That's very true.
You know? So I would almost, in a way, say that you're like a dad. Because like I think of my dad and he just watches whatever's on TV all the time. It can be like not Alec Baldwin. What's that guy? A Seagal. It'd be like a Steven Seagal movie, and my dad will be enraptured. I will look at it for 30 seconds and be like, I'm sorry, I'm not wasting my time on that.
Look, lines need to be drawn. Steven Seagal is kind of up there. Jean-Claude Van Damme, though. Oh.
Okay, no, but listen. Oh, actually, with him on the mind, he has a new TV show on Amazon Prime.
I do not.
It's very, very good, by the way. He plays himself. It's very meta.
Oh, okay.
It's very, very, very good. Anyway, how about let's speak about that at a later stage because we can get some time to both watch a bit more of it. Anyway, sorry. Let's rein this back to Zack Snyder's Justice League and what I was talking about in terms of our criteria. Now, when the original Justice League came out, Edward and I were lucky enough to attend the premiere in South Africa. I thought it was the biggest load of hogwash to be released in a long time. But Edward thought that it was decent. Hey, Ed?
It was great.
I think
it was good.
If we had to look at EGAD today, I would say disappointing. Ed, you would give it a?
Going back, I would say it's still good.
Okay.
For what we're given, what we have to go by, it was good,
So that's just giving you an idea of how we both viewed the original. Now, everybody listening, Zack Snyder's Justice League is a masterpiece. It is.
That's huge coming from you.
It is incredible. Now, understand that I'm saying this from the perspective of DC movies. So I'm not looking at it from a Marvel perspective and trying to compare it to Endgame or anything like that, because those are really, truthfully speaking, in a league of their own, because the MCU has been built over a decade. You had all of these movies building up to this massive thing. That's something Justice League didn't have the privilege of having. Justice League, Warner Brothers and DC were all about shoehorning into the popularity that the MCU was getting. And so instead of building up all of these characters over a decade in much the same way that Marvel did, they kind of were just like, well, let's just do Justice League now. And so when you watch the film, the original incarnation of it at any rate, you often wonder what the fong is going on here. What is happening?
Mm.
because, you know, from my perspective, right? I thought that that Cyborg from the original cut of the film was just this whiny little bitch, and he irritated me to no end. I was like, I'm tired of seeing this character. He's irritating. I'm done. Let me tell you, I have a much larger appreciation for Cyborg now that I've watched the Zack Snyder cut of the film, because it just does an incredible job of showcasing Cyborg's character, where he comes from, why he dislikes his father, what happened to him to turn him into Cyborg, and so much more. I'm actually getting goosies talking about it because the the world building in the Snyder cut is just it's outstanding. I mean, I haven't watched Aquaman just because it didn't look very good, and from what I've heard from people it's average, and it just didn't feel like, delving into it. Now that I've watched the Snyder cut, I kind of want to watch Aquaman. And that's unheard of for me because in the original
That's
cut of the
saying a
movie, he
lot.
was just some bro, you know? No nuance, no, embellishments for the character. Now I have an appreciation for the fact that Arthur Curry had his own motivations for not wanting to be king of Atlantis. And what happened to his mother and why he had to pick up the mantle. Things that were just somehow lost by Joss Whedon, right? I
Yeah,
I think I don't want to be erratic about how I'm speaking about this film, but honestly, the biggest thing for me, and this consistently blows my mind every time I think about it, is where did Zack Snyder get all of this material from? Because my understanding is the reshoots were minimal. It was mostly just voiceover.
mm,
So that
yep,
means that Whedon castrated the film
yep.
for what reason? Now, I understand maybe it would be like if Edward and I each made a film and it would look very different, and maybe we would cut out select parts. That's fair. That's fair. But Edward posed a very interesting conspiracy theory to me the other day.
As always.
And just give us a quick one about that, Ed.
Well, I pose a lot of conspiracy theories to you, us.
It's the one about how, Whedon was one of Marvel's golden boys.
Oh, that one. Okay, so oh, I can go into an entire rant about that. And when you mentioned Whedon and the Endgame movies earlier, well, the Marvel movies earlier, I wanted to also interject with that. Essentially, as we all know, Josh Whedon is Marvel's golden boy.
Yeah.
He's the one that helped make all the Avengers movies. I think all except Ultron. And essentially, when Zack Snyder had to leave Justice League, when he had to step down for personal reasons, Warner Brothers paid Josh Whedon a crap ton of money to come and, I say in air quotes, fix this film. Now, that was around the exact same time that Infinity War was releasing. I'm thinking that Josh Whedon, being the Marvel golden boy and being the big Marvel fan that he is, he's a well-known Marvel fan. He's a collector of comics, of all the Marvel comics. He is a well-known naysayer of the DC comics. I think he deliberately, maybe castrated, as Hans said earlier, the film and made it a little bit of more of a mess than it should have been.
Look,
and I think the reshoots especially is attributed to that fact.
what I would say is before watching the Snyder Cut, I would have said that's hogwash. There's no way somebody that prolific with such a great career and so much respect in the industry would do something like that. And I would then argue, the reason why the Marvel movies have worked is because they're all pretty lighthearted at the core. They have the jokes, they have the things. Now, it's obvious he tried doing those for Justice League. Unfortunately, Snyder's vision has never been a light-hearted superhero film. I mean, Man of Steel is a great example of that, and that's still one of my favorite DC films. And I know most people don't like it, but I loved it. I cry every single time Jonathan Kent dies. Now, you know, I'd like to think he wouldn't do that, and I'd like to think he tried. I think he was almost forced to add a Marvel touch to
Mm-hmm.
Justice League. That's almost how I would look at it. With that
That
said,
makes
though,
sense.
there's so much in the Snyder Cut that I am genuinely shocked that certain scenes were cut and didn't feature in the film. I mean,
Now,
I look at the runtime of Endgame and Infinity War, and they all broach about 3 hours. Even Batman vs Superman, which I actually enjoyed quite a bit, was 3 hours. So why then was Justice League, a movie with even more context, or that needed even more context, why was that only 2 hours? Don't tell me that you couldn't have fit in an extra hour, which is all that movie genuinely would have needed to fill in the context for all the characters. Which, granted, Snyder has made it 4 hours, so therefore there's even more context for everybody. And, the world building, especially for Steppenwolf and Darkseid, is just, man, it's just so good. So, I don't know. Look, I'm honestly, truly, truly glad that whoever it was at Warner Brothers or HBO or wherever decided, let's let Snyder finish the film the way that he
mm,
originally envisaged it. And I'm so glad that they did, because one of my favorite things, and if I can, and I use that loosely, especially when it comes to the DC movies, is Snyder's vision for the films. Because in direct contrast to Marvel Cinematic Universe, Snyder's vision is dark, it's broody, it's vicious, it's violent. It's meant to showcase a world that isn't, airy fairy, like sure, Marvel eventually towards the later films started going a little bit more into, the darker elements, but DC's been like that from the start, I guess technically because of Batman. Thing is, though, it
mm.
just worked so well for them. And, you know, to see that come to fruition in the Justice League, I was actually messaging Edward while I was watching the movie, and the number of goosies, the goose flesh that I got in this film from seeing Diana Wonder Woman move in a way I've never seen her in the films before. And you know what? You can say whatever you want about Patty Jenkins' films, but the first one was great. The second one is a load of trash. And as far as I'm concerned, I would love a Snyder version of Wonder Woman, because her scenes almost, I don't want to say stole the show, but gosh, damn is Wonder Woman amazing. All right? Like, you could
Um,
feel her power. You could feel that she's a 5,000-year-old being. In terms of the other characters, it's things like seeing Aquaman not just being a bro, but being somebody who has personality. And the Flash, oh my gosh, Barry Allen in so many scenes. I mean, yes, he's kind of stole the show in the original cut, but there's so much more to his. I can't get over
mm,
how much was cut for the backstories for these characters. And of all of the biggest changes, the best one, oh well, two of the best ones, because I'm a big Superman fan, right? He's one of my favorite DC characters. His whole arc just felt so real and true to character. And the new scenes of him kicking ass are like legit amazing. Anyway, I want to get more to the villains and stuff. The exploration of Steppenwolf was fantastic, because he was just, I don't know, I don't even remember him in the original cut of the film. But in this one, he's an actual character that has a redemption story. That's what his story is about. And, Darkseid being the overall ruler in the background. And I think the film is fantastic. If you didn't like the original, you will, in my opinion, really enjoy this one. If you liked the previous one, you will be out of your mind happy with this one. And it's a really, really great film. I think there are a lot of other things that I haven't mentioned, a lot of things that I don't really want to spoil, because the story arcs are actually, it feels like a new movie. It doesn't feel like he took another film and just made his. It feels like a new film. Like when we watched it, I thought maybe half an hour of it seemed familiar. The rest of it was just so different, so different. Um, and I think the worst part about Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League is that there isn't going to be a sequel. That is hands down the absolute worst part of this film, is how good it is, how fantastic it sets up a next film. And I'm talking about stuff I didn't even realize was in the DC universe, like old gods and stuff, which all make appearances in this film. It's absolutely incredible. And I think that is the worst part about watching this movie, is that you're going to watch it and want the sequel that Snyder envisioned, and you were never going to get it. Well, let's not say never, right? Because this we thought we were never going to get. So maybe if there's enough of a fan pickup, they'll use him, for the next one. But he himself has said he doesn't want to do it. That's what I'm hoping.
So yeah, Snyder himself said this is the end of the Man of Steel arc. So we might not even get the Man of Steel 2 movie.
Wait, hold on. You mean we're never going to get a Man of Steel 2 movie, or we're going to get a Man of Steel?
Might not.
Look, I'm sad about that, because I still feel that of the recent spat of DC films, the Man of Steel is one of the best ones. And I'm sad that Superman, which is honestly one of the biggest and most popular DC characters, was literally pushed to the background along with Batman in Batman vs. Superman and Justice League. They really just became secondary characters to whatever else was going on in the grand scheme of things. However, if you watch Snyder's version of the film in context, there's so many more scenes of Batman and of Superman that you've never seen before. And you're like, why were they cut? We needed this exposition. We needed this context. Anyway, it's a fantastic, fantastic film. It's easily one of my favorites, which is very rare. Favorites from DC universe. It's very rare for me to say something like that. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I wish Snyder did more superhero stuff. Now, given how we're never going to get a sequel, and, well, at least we assume we're never going to get a sequel, and, Snyder's origin story was what is going to go down to the wayside, I suppose. Is Dracula, Edward?
Yeah. Bram Stokers Dracula.
That's the one. The old granddaddy Dracula. So
the original.
We've spoken about vampires many times, and Edward and I love Twilight vampires because, y'all, if the worst thing in my life is the fact that I sparkle in the sun and I have beautiful amber eyes, sign me up. Okay, I've said so before, and I will say it again. Now, of course, that is in direct contrast to Bram Stoker's Dracula.
That's
who was
the
ugly
moment you
as
said
sin.
That, I was thinking, the original Dracula didn't look anything like amber eyes,
and he couldn't even eat garlic. Okay, which we all know we've spoken about in a previous episode. So, one of the main reasons why I'm bringing this up is because I found something really fascinating about this, and it has to do with the story of Bram Stoker and his original Dracula. Now, Edward is an author, an aspiring author, and he knows in all the times that I edit his work, I will often maybe say, remove this, change that, this should be reworked, because I could be an editor by trade because of the skill sets that I have. Thing is, I found out that Bram Stoker's Dracula was modified before release as well. And
sounds about right.
This, doesn't sound, at first glance, you're like, oh, so what? Everything's modified at release. So it's not a huge, it's not a huge deal. The difference, though, is that this modification removed an entire paragraph where Bram Stoker actually says that he believes the story of Dracula is real and that his story needs to serve as a warning for this kind of evil in the world. So,
see, that's something you don't take out of books.
Well, that's what you'd think, right? You'd think so. Now, of course, authors can embellish their works in any ways they like, but this to me sounds like, wow. Like, if he really said that, why would somebody remove that? Anyway, If you read a little bit more into it, it turns out that the initial UK editor took it out because at the time, and of course, the UK was a cesspool in the 1800s of, serial killers. Essentially, there was another serial killer roaming the streets, and they didn't want to publish the story in the fear that it would scare people too much because of his warning at the beginning of the book.
That's cool.
You're kind of looking back at that and you're thinking, dumbass, shouldn't have done that. But anyway, so
Wow.
no, it goes further though. It goes further. So it turns out that almost half the book was cut, and that a big part of it includes like actual historical fact from the locations that Bram Stoker lived in. Like, for example, how in real life there was a ship called the Dimitri, which allegedly is the ship that arrives, and it has like caskets of earth and blah blah blah. In real life,
Mhm.
there was actually a ship. It actually arrived, and it actually did carry those things. But in his book, he calls it the Demeter, for example. So if you actually take the text and you go and look into the little things that he changed, because according to Bram Stoker, he also actually knew a real Jonathan Harker, his wife, and a Dr. Seward. So these are all characters he actually knew. But the reason why nobody knows about any of this stuff is because the first, I think it was almost 100 or 200 pages of the original manuscript are forever lost. And then there's another piece of the original manuscript, which allegedly turned up in Pennsylvania, America, which includes the manuscript with the first 100 pages missing. And the interesting part about this is that this manuscript starts where I think it's Jonathan Harker is on a train, and that is how the original book begins. But according to the original
That's how the
manuscript, that's 100 pages into the story already.
Wow.
Right?
So essentially, it was edited just a little bit to remove all
The truthful
mentions.
elements, yes.
Yeah,
Accordingly,
of
it's
real life.
things like who Dracula is and where he was located and what he did and the myth of how he came and all of these alleged things where Stoker believed were real have all been cut. Now, no one really knows where these pages are, but allegedly, if you do go and do some research, you can find snippets of what the original story was about around the world. Most notably, in one, I think it's an Icelandic print of the book, first edition. It has elements in there that none of the other books have. Anyway, I thought it was absolutely incredible that the granddaddy of writing the Dracula stories actually thought that Count Dracul was real and it wasn't just something that popped out of his imagination. Or it could be a very, very intelligent man who decided to fuse a lot of real world and fiction to make it sound super real, but wasn't. Don't know.
Maybe it
What
was
do you
like
think?
fan fiction.
Fanfic.
Like,
Oh gosh.
yeah, fanfic of a guy he loved.
I don't know. I
Gosh.
think it's incredible. That this
It's a
kind
good
of a thing.
book.
It makes me think of the Bible because we
Mm.
all know that the Catholic religion took a lot out of the Bible to make it suit.
Many chapters.
Yeah, many chapters of many of which are coming to light even today in 2021 via new Dead Sea Scrolls. So it's very, very interesting to see how much power an editor has over an author's work, and which is why it's so nice to know that in at least 2021, if you are self-published, you don't have to worry about somebody editing your work and people can love it for what it is. And this now leads me on to what the NFT.
See, I saw the notes and I was like, what is an NFT? Is it like an EFT?
Okay.
Uh,
There's been a lot of buzz recently about something called NFT, and it basically stands for non-fungible token. There's actually an excellent write-up about it on GameSpot, which we will link to, by a South African media acquaintance that we know of, by the name of Alessandro Barbosa. And he actually has a really great podcast called Checkpoint Chat, so definitely check that out if you get a chance. And he did a really great write-up about what exactly a non-fungible token is. And as per usual, all the things that we do speak about will be linked below, so feel free to go and click on any of those links. Simply put, think of it as a means of securing your your rights to digital content in the digital age. So my understanding of a non-fungible token is it uses the Ethereum blockchain, all right, which we already know, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, every currency has its own ledger and everything can be traced on that ledger, which therefore makes it, open source. And, you know what I mean? It's more open versus being closed off like current financial institutions. Now, the difference between a non-fungible token versus actual currency and a digital currency is that all digital currency tokens are basically identical. That's why they can function as currency. Whereas a non-fungible token is exactly that. It's non-fungible, meaning that every single one issued is 100% unique. So what has happened in this regard is that a lot of artists are turning towards issuing NFTs for their work. So think about it like this. Think about the person who created the Mona Lisa. And how, you have the original artwork which sits in the Louvre, and then you can go and buy a really great replica at like a souvenir store. The NFT in this sense would be the original work because that's the original work. And then duplicates would be obviously be of less value because they're duplicates of the original. So where an NFT comes in is essentially it issues a token for a piece of artwork that would then be the original version of the artwork. But unlike physical artworks, all right, the difference is that if you own a non-fungible token for, let's say, the digital version of the Mona Lisa, that artwork can still be reproduced digitally online without any difference. The only difference would be that you own the non-fungible token for the original. Which therefore makes me wonder, what is the point? Because, look, here's a great example, right? There are a lot of, like, many artworks have been sold for millions and millions of dollars at the moment. And one of the more interesting ones was, and I don't know the exact specifics, but it was basically Christie's in the UK. They sold an NFT, as far as I understand, for some digital image. And the funny thing is, you could just copy paste that digital image that they tweeted out from their account and have a copy for yourself. So why
That's
then?
Funny.
No, like why then pay millions and millions of pounds for a digital token to say that you own the original when the exact digital duplicate of what you've made, do you get my point? Do you get my point?
Yeah, I think the idea is for original owners to claim financial copyright.
It's not. So that's the other very interesting thing about NFTs. They don't secure copyright. There is actually no.
But what's the point?
Well, this is the thing. So my understanding from what I'm like looking into this is it's almost like an artificial sense of attributing value. So, you might have two things, but because you have non-fungible token for the one, the other one then just becomes a random duplicate, even if it's identical to the original.
Can you prove it's the original and a duplicate?
If you have the NFT, yes. So NFTs are solely unique, right? But you are right. Multiple NFTs can be lodged against different things. Oh, and this is the other thing that I have to just speak about really quickly. Artists online are getting frustrated because people are issuing non-fungible tokens against their work without them realizing it.
So you can just do this without filing any paperwork.
You see, this is the whole thing. So I would have liked to have thought that an NFT would be issued by, let's say, the original owner of the work. Because that owner issued it, you would then know that NFT that you've now bought is 100% legitimate, and so on and so forth. Yeah. But given how there's no real way to actually go back, I mean, yes, you can go back to the ledger and trace the transactions and so on and so forth, but there's no governing body to do that. So you might issue an NFT and sell it to somebody for $5 billion, but somebody else might issue an NFT to your work as well and sell it for $5. They still have an NFT of your work.
And so what's the point?
So okay, so I'm going to go back and think about how I enjoy Pokemon cards. And I used to
Yeah.
have some really spectacular cards back in the day. Now, because
Yeah.
they're tangible and because they were no longer printed, their value increased. All right. Now, as we
Yeah.
move into the digital age, we don't have a means of attributing value to things that can be so easily mass produced. So, I believe that an NFT is a means of trying to attribute perceived value to digital content. That's
Okay.
that's the way that I would look at it. Now, what gives it the value, on the other hand, assuming NFTs can just be created willy-nilly by anybody, is up for debate.
See, that's exactly what I'm wondering. So it creates perceived value, fine, but that value can just change by anyone.
Yes and no.
So
So the thing is, if you can trace back that your NFT comes from the original artist, it would inherently then be worth more. But
okay,
but other people can still lodge NFTs against other artists' work, and they're doing so. So then it becomes the whole thing of, but then if you're not, basically, in order to really make this something, I believe there needs to be some sort of consortium that validates these things. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
even if NFTs
yeah,
are lodged against a certain piece of artwork, but anyway, a topic for another day. Either way, it's just a very interesting look at where we're moving in the digital age. And this also applies to video games. So video games have DLC, all right?
yep.
But imagine now a video game with NFT, whereby something goes up on the video game store, but only one, let's say they only make 100. And each of these 100 items each have NFTs attached. So you buy one of these, you are one of 100. Even though,
Hmm?
what I'm trying to get at is, even though the item is digital, you would only be one of 100 people to own the NFT for your character in your game. Now, there's Alessandro did a really great job of talking about this and how it might be applied to microtransactions in the future. And there was also an example of how there really is a game that uses NFTs as its core basis, and that is called CryptoKitties. Now, the way CryptoKitties works is it's a game built off the Ethereum blockchain, and what happens
I
is
thought
is
so.
is I'm sure you've heard of it before. Is
Yeah.
every cat has its own genetic code on the blockchain. But when two cats breed, it creates a wholly unique token for that new breed. And what happens is that people with really rare, awesome breeds, digital breeds, have unique NFTs that cannot be duplicated. They then sell them for millions of dollars.
Okay. It's literally a Tamagotchi.
Yes, yes. Look, it's really phenomenal. It's a very, very interesting topic. We will link to the article, which does a fantastic job of breaking it down in better detail. If I haven't done so in my own way. But Ed, is there anything else you want to say about this whole NFT thing?
No, I just wanted to ask, can you attribute NFTs to physical things, to real life stuff?
As
Like
far as
clothing?
I know, no. I think my understanding is it's solely digital. So it wouldn't be
Okay.
like I could do an NFT to this iPhone, for example. And
Or
the
like
reason for that is because it's not necessary. Things in the real world don't need NFTs, because if you make something and you only make 100 of them, that's it. Only 100 exist.
well the reason for my asking is because you get counterfeit goods, like um you get everywhere counterfeit goods.
Oh, I hear
And
you.
maybe
I
if you
hear
had
you.
an
So,
NFT scanner app
oh,
on your phone, you
oh,
see?
that's a really great real world application. So you mean, like, for
Yeah.
example, you're in the flea market and you see this pair of Gucci sneakers, right? And
Exactly.
you're like, are these legit? Imagine a Gucci
And then you
certified app
scan the
where you
thing,
scan the barcode and that then checks it on the Gucci ledger for
that checks the
authenticity.
NFT. Yeah.
Wow, that is very interesting. I would imagine that is something that could possibly happen in the future. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
very, very, very interesting. Now, speaking of Gucci, thank you, Edward, for that wonderful lead. When I initially saw this, I actually thought that Gucci was branching into NFTs. Turns out they're not. But what Gucci is doing,
Hmm.
which is just absolutely ludicrous in its own right, especially now that we've discussed NFTs, is they're selling an image of a digital shoe that will never be
An
made
image.
for $12.
Is it an image?
It's just
an
image.
actual image.
It's an image. It's not even a real sneaker. But Gucci has them on their site for $12. So if you want to buy an image of a Gucci sneaker, you can go and spend your hard-earned money on it at the Gucci store. Why you'd want to do that and not just pick an image from Google and save it to your phone is another story entirely. But again, I guess this comes back to the argument we had with NFT. Now you can say, oh, well, I bought mine from Gucci, so mine's real.
See, I just saved this, so now I have this image. But I just do piracy?
So this is the whole thing, right? Now, an NFT would ensure that your purchased image is unique. Even if somebody can go and take that exact identical image that has been identically, because remember, in the digital space, you can copy stuff identically. It doesn't even have to be altered for you to copy it. It's just, it's absolutely fascinating how this is all working.
In a way, I get this because obviously you can, in today's age, you can ask artists to make art for you, for your friends or whatever, and you pay them. But anyone can still copy the image because most of the time these images are digital. This is pretty much that, I guess.
NFT or the Gucci thing?
The sneaker. the Gucci thing now.
No, not even, Ed. So they're selling you a digital image for $12, but there is no NFT attached, which means they're just selling you a fake-ass digital image for $12.
But again, that's the same way as asking an artist to paint a picture of my Guild Wars character for me.
No, but I see what you mean. No, but the difference is he's only selling it to you. Now, if he took that character and put it on his store and then sold it to other people, you see that's then different. Because now in this sense, these sneakers, it's just a photo. It's literally a digitized image of a pair of Gucci sneakers. Why you'd want to pay money for it, I don't know. This is what I'm saying.
That's a scummy business ass shit. That.
All you have to do is shake your head at it, much like Intel bringing back the Mac versus PC debate.
Which is also a scummy ass shit, but anyway. I digress.
For those who aren't aware, years ago, Apple had this phenomenal campaign which pitted Apple Mac versus Intel PC. And, there was the PC guy and there was the Mac guy. And the Mac guy was all, cool and cool looking. He was portrayed by the actor Justin Long, who's long since faded into obscurity. And there was another guy who was the PC. And those marketing campaigns were incredible. Because honestly, back in the day, I mean, you can say what you want about Apple and Mac. They're phenomenal computers. And they've always had much better designs than a lot of what's been available out there. Anyway, we've all long since forgotten about it, and Apple has long moved into what is a PC even, if you followed the iPad advertisements.
Yeah.
So there's no surprise that Intel is now trying to forcefully tarnish Apple's image again because of the Apple M1 chip. The M1 chip is absolutely phenomenal. It blows everything out of the water. How Apple is doing it, people are still absolutely perplexed by. But I suppose, when you own your own ecosystem, which includes your own hardware and your own software, you can do whatever you want. And that's where the strength lies in, well, Apple's entire product lineup. So what's happened is Intel went and hired Justin Long to reprise his role as the Mac guy, but now to throw shade at Apple and their M1 chip, which is just very sad.
That is very back.
It's a desperate back move.
Alley practice.
That's what that is.
Because you have to ask the why. Like, why did Justin Long accept this?
I'm so glad you said that, because I was just like, he's obviously maybe he needs the money. I don't know. I'm just like, why would you burn your relationships with one of the most profitable companies in the world to back an advert for a company, and Intel is the company I'm talking about here, who literally hasn't innovated in the last 5 years and is being overtaken by their biggest competitor, AMD, and now Apple with their own chips? Like, what are you doing with your life that you make that kind of decision?
Yeah. Gosh.
I would imagine it's financial.
I guess a paycheck's a paycheck. Yeah, that's exactly.
Because, like, why? Why would... I mean, excuse me, there ain't no way I would burn bridges with Apple. Okay, if I was Justin Long and I was the Mac guy and Apple had initially hired me, there ain't no way that I would go against a $1 trillion company.
What are the chances he's getting like free iPhones every year and now he's burned that?
Look, in many respects, the ad doesn't he doesn't say anything negative against Apple, but it's implied. Much like the previous adverts. I don't know. The whole thing just screams of desperation. It's very clear Intel have nothing better to do than to trash the competition. And the funny part is it's backfiring because everybody knows. Everybody's looking at this advert and being like, you know what, this is actually in poor taste because y'all chips be shit.
That's the worst thing, especially if you use something as prominent as this. Like, ooh, now the Mac, I'm a Mac guy is back talking Macs. Like, everyone's going to go like, no, you just said they were good. So what's going on now?
Exactly.
Are you just flipping switches?
Exactly.
And that's just a bad.
Well, I mean,
bad
look. In fairness, they were years ago, but honestly, it's just the truth of the matter is Intel is scared. And what do companies do when they're scared? They try to trash the competition because you'll note that the only companies that ever trash Apple are those that are directly competing with them. You know,
copying them.
Samsung and Huawei, for example, are prime examples of companies that always copy Apple in almost everything that they do and seldom succeed in doing it as well as Apple and always have something negative to say about Apple devices. Whereas Apple just don't care. They're just like, you can say whatever you like. We're gonna beat to our own drum. And everybody's like, yeah, I like that. I prefer that.
Yep.
I don't need somebody to diss another company for me to like your product.
Exactly.
So
that's why that's why Apple did away with the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC ads in the first place.
Yes.
Because they moved into a more, we don't need to do these comparisons.
There's no need.
We literally just stand our own.
Hold on. The other thing about it as well, though, I suppose maybe this is where it's a little bit more nuanced, right? When Apple said a Mac is better than a PC, they didn't target any particular company. So at the time, Microsoft took the brunt of it because obviously Windows is only available on normal Intel-based machines. But at the time, Apple had Intel-based Macs. So, you know, it wasn't pointed at anybody. It was just trying to give you the benefits of the Apple ecosystem. These new ads, however, are directly pinpointing Intel as being superior to what Apple is offering when that is clearly not the case. I will take my MacBook, an M1 MacBook with one USB slot and the dongle life over any Windows machine, any Intel machine that you'll throw at me. Okay. Thank you.
Easy. Yeah.
Ed, the next one that I'm going to talk about is very interesting, and it's right up your alley. So I don't have any tattoos. Edward, on the other hand, is a bit of a tattoo fiend. He enjoys them.
I have a few.
Often has them. For those of you who are watching, Edward, please flash your Spider-Man tattoo, which is really great, by the way. For those of you who are listening, it's a wonderful caricature of which Spider-Man again? Is it 2077?
Scarlet Spider-Man.
There we go. The Scarlet Spider-Man. Look at that. It's great. Now, I want to speak about this for a second because generally my understanding of tattoos, and Edward, by all means, step in here since you've actually been tattooed. Is you go to somebody you trust because you want the artwork to actually look good. You need to go to somebody who's talented. And B, there's very much an art to it whereby, you know, the person who's coloring it in has to be aware of your skin and where to go deep and where to go light and so on and so forth.
Yes, for sure.
Now, Ed, I want to propose a question to you. If given the option, would you let a robot tattoo you?
If I can see its profile first.
What do you mean?
I won't be the first guy to get tattooed, no.
Okay, so you would only trust the robot if it had already previously done work?
Yes.
Why? That's actually a curious question. Why?
Because going to a tattoo artist is, or rather going to a new artist is a mixture of a few things. You need to know that they can draw. or that they at least have an idea of how color and ink mix.
Okay.
And then secondly, they have to have an idea of how the muscular structure of whatever body part you're tattooing works. So if I'm going to get if I'm going to get a line tattoo, for instance, you can't just make a straight line over the arm and expect it to be straight after you're done with the tattoo, because that's not how muscles work. So in other words, if I go to this robot, well, I know that he'll be stretching my arm in the way that needs to be stretched.
What
so
I find most interesting about your analyses of the situation is how much of a human element you've assigned to this robot.
Yeah, I guess
because it's a robot. It's not human.
Yeah.
So therefore, it isn't. I mean, not that it isn't incapable of mistakes. What I mean is, it shouldn't have the limitations a human has. Does that make sense?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this whole thing that I've looked at and that we've both found, it has to do with actually a really interesting and fantastic advertising campaign, a marketing campaign. And part of what you said is actually accurate, Ed. So this robot does the tattoo, but it's being controlled by a real tattoo artist. So it's not like it's just a robot that was given a script and then it has to, write. I mean, it has to tattoo you. All right.
Okay.
Essentially, it has to do with T-Mobile in the Netherlands, and what they did is they got a very talented tattoo artist to remotely, using 5G technology, which we've spoken about in season 1. It's perfectly natural and normal. Can't do anything to you. How they're using 5G technology, cellular technology, to remotely control a robot to tattoo, I think it was some Scandinavian celebrity. And it's very much using the kind of tech that surgeons use. You know how some surgeons can remotely, like across the world, actually operate on people, using the thing. So it uses that, whereby the arm is controlled by a tattoo artist in another point of the country. And their whole thing was how 5G cellular communication is so fast, so accurate, has such minimal latency that you can be tattooed by a robot thousands of kilometers away and it all works out. So it's
Sounds
just,
good.
I thought it was an incredibly interesting thing. And that's why I asked you, would you be tattooed by a robot? And I actually loved your response, because you assigned human value and attributes to what really should be a cold piece of mechanical plastic or metal
or hardware.
Yeah. However, you were also right in that regard, because in this sense, it wasn't just like a program and an arm and then it tattoos you. It was literally a tattoo artist hundreds of kilometers away who was tattooing, and then the arm, through his controls, would tattoo the other person. And I dig this a lot.
It reminds me a lot of the robot haircut, the haircut robot we talked about.
Oh, yes.
Just when lockdown started. That guy made a version 2, by the way. I visited his channel just the other day.
And?
I did not watch the video. I just saw it made a version 2.
Wow.
But yeah, it reminds me a lot of that. But that's obviously autonomous, whereas this is controlled, as you said.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
that's
awesome. Wow. Yeah.
Knowing the robot is controlled, I might do it.
So that
because
now this is something. Yeah. This is now an interesting debate for a future point in time, whereby we have previously discussed the ethical boundaries of AI. You know, and I love the fact that you wanted to give it a human component to it, but at the same time you were mistrustful because there wasn't a human component.
Yeah.
You see, I find that
sounds so bad.
Fascinating. Because like I'm somebody who's polite to my digital assistants, not because I think they're gonna follow xylitol one day in the future and eradicate us, but more so just because I'm polite. So
yeah.
And she's always
it's just
listening.
Better to
Somebody
polite.
help.
That's the issue. We're surrounded by these devices.
Now, with some really awesome advances in technology on the mind, something else that we picked up on, and this, everything always relates to everything else. Like, we've spoken about chimeras and genetics, and Edward did a fantastic job of throwing in some dinosaur stuff just the other week. Especially with Godzilla versus Kong coming up. So of course, all of this is now on the mind. We came across this article that was recently published in the Nature Journal. And it comes from a team of researchers at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel. And what they've done, and this is truly an accomplishment, is they've created an artificial uterus. Now, it's still very much in its early stages, and it's been about 5 to 8 years already of continuous research. But what they've been able to do is allow mouse embryos to gestate to at least halfway of the necessary amount of time needed for them to gestate in full and to be birthed. And this is incredible because not only, okay, y'all know I'm immediately jumping to dinosaurs and stuff, right? You got to know.
That's immediately where
that's just always where I am, all right? But imagine now, if we have to look at from a human perspective, imagine same-sex couples, for example, being able to have children this way, or even people who just can't have children naturally having children this way, or any number of reasons. Maybe you are carrying, or you're with child and you develop a cancer. Now, instead of choosing between your cancer and your child, you can remove the child from the womb and let them grow out of the womb. I think it's ex vitro. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Yeah, it's ex vitro.
So it's just an absolutely incredible advancement. From what I understand about the research right now is that the reason they have reached a bit of a stopping point, and that is because right now the embryos have been able to be nourished solely using the special nourishing liquid fluid thing, and then the embryo is in the sac, and the sac gets turned so the embryo doesn't attach. It's absolutely incredible. We'll link to it so you can actually read about it. Anyway, the current wall that they've reached is whereby that fluid is no longer enough to sustain the embryo's growth, whereby they now need to somehow learn how to create an artificial umbilical cord, because that's actually stopping it from moving on to the next section. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that incredible? Hey?
The thing is, all of this, once the umbilical cord is made, I'm getting Death Stranding vibes. And then,
well, you've got the baby there, don't you, in the background?
Exactly, yeah, I do have the baby. So that's immediately giving me Death Stranding vibes. And then I'm thinking, but this means it can lead to actual robots, but with
with a human core?
With human elements inside them.
Look.
So
you know what? You actually could be right, because I would imagine that the artificial umbilical cord would need to be controlled by something.
Yeah, it'll need to be fed and
that would. Okay, but now it might not be an intelligent connection. Do you know what I mean? We'd like to assume it would be an intelligent connection so that it can monitor the vitals and the nourishment and so on and so forth. But it could also just be a dumb connection. Does that make sense? However, if it's an intelligent connection, where maybe the nerves and things are connecting to bioprocesses, then yes, now you're talking about that link between organic matter and robotics. Ooh, that's very, very exciting. Of course,
that's some Terminator shit.
I'm back on dinosaurs and Pokemon, so I mean, you're all like Death Stranding vibes, and I'm like, can we just please gestate a Velociraptor? I just want one. I just want to see one.
Or a Mewtwo. Let's make a Mewtwo.
Or a Mewtwo, yes. Now with Pokemon, Ed found this incredible thing about an actual real life Pikachu, and not just from the digital CGI one from the film, an actual Pikachu.
So, to my detriment, I guess, I haven't seen the new Pokemon movie yet.
Detective
the new
Pikachu.
Real life one.
It's decent.
Yes,
decent.
I haven't seen that one yet. So, but I have been looking at trailers for it because the missus and I have been planning a date night.
Which, by the way, is when Edward is going to be watching the Snyder cut. But anyway.
So I won't even be watching Detective Pikachu then. Anyway.
Edward, you do know we're all still waiting for those 2 Russian movies, right?
Yes, no, I promised within the month, and it's coming. Guess what? Next week.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay. 1
anyway,
year later.
In eternity later, I watched a few trailers and I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and I found like this was all marketing hype for Detective Pikachu. So take this with a little grain of salt.
So it's not real? The story's not real?
No, I think it's real, but I couldn't find more about it. I think it's very, very real.
Okay.
I just couldn't find more info about it. That's what I mean. An actual real life Pikachu.
Well, air quotes.
So
real
life. In quotes. It's a Pikachu. It's called a Pikachu. It's dubbed a Pikachu. It looks like a Pikachu.
But it's actually
It's a little possum.
Yep.
An Australian possum. A golden... I forgot the full name.
No,
a golden possum.
They've called it a golden possum because it apparently some genetic mutation caused its hair to go like a really nice yellowish gold, right? Hey?
Yeah, it's literally just a genetic mutation.
Yeah.
Which in the same way that you get albino rhinos and albino other things.
Yes. Spot on. Can it shoot electricity, Ed? I mean, I know we're talking about this mutation.
No, unfortunately not. It can't be weaponized. It doesn't have any weaponized abilities.
We say that. But we've spoken about chimeras. Now we have artificial uteruses. So I'm seeing maybe extended long hair golden possum that uses static electricity to shoot electric bolts.
Listen, my only issue with this entire thing is that he doesn't have little dark spots in his ears.
It can't be Pikachu then.
Yeah, it's what's the baby version of Pikachu? The Minichu.
Oh,
Minim or whatever. Yeah, it's basically that. It looks more like that than an actual Pikachu. But I guess how real can you go?
Well, I mean, Pikachu is meant to be a rodent. So I guess if you're going to be attributing an animal to what a real Pikachu would look like, I guess this golden possum is not a bad idea. I mean, it's kind of there. And that wasn't the only Pokemon discovery you found.
No. So I also find, and also in Australia, so these people love Beetles. Love Pokemon, I guess. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Thank you to Australian listeners. This is for y'all.
Yeah, we have a few of y'all. I found the most interesting little post reminding me, because I have read this in the past, long ago, that beetles, there are 3 beetles in Australia that are named after...
mean, there are many beetles in Australia, but...
No, there are 3 beetles in Australia that are named after the 3 legendary birds. The original 3 legendary birds.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Now, why they're named after the birds, I have no idea. That's
I know why. One. I know why.
Why?
So okay. Edward... This is something that I'm actually really, really glad to be speaking about. So, what is the reason why these beetles were named after the 3 legendary Pokemon is because the scientist that helped find it is a Pokemon fan. That's literally the big thing. And then it turned out that the actual name is the Binburum. That's what the beetle is called. But because the beetle has 3 individual looks, he then attributed them to the 3 legendary birds as just a nice play on it because he's a fan of Pokemon.
Yeah, so basically it's...
But the cool thing about that is the reason why things like this are happening now is because people of our generation are finally in roles where we can make a difference in the world.
But my point is, okay, so for context, the 3 beetles are called the Binburum, Articuno, Binburum Moltres, and Binburum Zapdos. Lush. It's mega lush. The issue with that is, why aren't they Regirock and Registeel?
Because they're beetles.
And Regice. Exactly. They're burrowing. They're in the earth.
Oh, look,
they aren't flying.
I think maybe
in the air.
Maybe. Oh, let's go with it like this, right? So they're named after birds that would eat them.
Okay, fine. I'll give you that one.
Who knows? Maybe the Bunburum Articuno is Articuno's favorite.
Maybe. I'll give you that one. It's just it's cool news.
Yeah. Now before we move on some more, the cool thing about it is, or more so, that these are not the only things that have actually been named after Pokemon. So it also turns out that scientists actually named a real life flying dinosaur
Fossil
as the Aerodactylus, which is named after Aerodactyl from Pokemon. So I dig it. Y'all Pokemon fans who are finally in the will to make a difference, you keep going strong.
Yeah. Eventually we'll have all the weird names. I'm seeing Naruto based animals in the future.
Imagine? Like it'll be like the Sasuke beetle, and it'll have like a like the marking
what
on
I
his
think.
eye.
Yeah, the little
Yes.
dark eye or whatever. Yeah.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, NSFW. The very next topic is all about delayed ejaculation. And let me tell you, after reading about all of that Pokemon.
See, that's weird, but I don't judge. Honestly, I have no way to lead into this from Pokemon other than the fact that, some of us might get a little semi after speaking.
Hello,
and
my name is Hans, and
and I get semis about Pokemon.
But wait, not in a Rule 34 way, okay? No.
Well, how else? No. That's just weird. The thing is, that's not the weirdest thing I've ever heard. So you're still good, Hans.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, there are weird shit out there.
Yes, I know. Well, from just the other day, I forgot what it was, but I sent you the link, and I was like, what was it? It was some hentai. Remember, I was looking at something else, and then all of a sudden there was this link. You
sent me a link to a Reddit, a subreddit full of hentai.
But what was it for again? I think it was tentacle. Oh, Portal. That's it. So. There was this meme where it was like, what would you use the Portal from Valve's Portal for? And so there's this guy
and
that does...
you said, and I quote, I would do this.
Yes, if I could have a portal to self-suck myself, you can bet I would do it. Duh.
Okay, to be fair,
don't lie. Y'all know you'd do it as well. Okay. So anyway, so I saw that, and then naturally, because this is the wonder of the internet, somebody linked down below to hentai based on the portals from Valve. Yeah. And I was like, how is this? I was not surprised that this even existed. All right.
Listen, what is Rule 34?
I know we're getting like way off topic here. So let's just get back to your like delayed ejaculation. But you see, the thing is,
okay, so
if you were doing yourself, you could also delay the ejaculation.
Yeah. So imagine you're getting your rockers off. Okay, you're watching this Valve
through a portal, and it's wonderful.
Hentai.
Yes.
You have the lotion and you have your tissues with you, and you're going, and it's just never happening. Like you're trying to peak and you're trying to orgasm, and nothing is happening. That is called delayed ejaculation. So,
but does it happen eventually though?
Maybe sometimes
okay,
not.
Because
it depends on the victim, I guess.
The victim. That's terrible to say.
Yeah.
Look, when I saw your title and I didn't read much further, I thought to myself, was this maybe the kind of thing where, like, let's say you're in the mood and you go and you're doing whatever you need to do, and then you don't get there, so you leave it, and then like 30 minutes later, it's like, ugh.
Oh, like you're in the kitchen making your
like you're just smoking outside, and all of a sudden it's like, you know.
No,
that's
it's not
what
quite
I
like
thought
that.
when I saw that, and I was like, oh my god,
like a lagged ejaculation.
Yes,
like
exactly,
thank you, baby, and then you go outside, and gosh, I can just imagine how maybe that's a thing as well. I'll do some research. So essentially, as you're going, it just never happens, and maybe it might come later, maybe it might not. Whether you're
but in the same session though.
Yes.
So not like what
no, it's not
what I initially
thought. It's not
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
It's just, I just find it's a weird naming convention. Then.
Yeah.
Why say delayed when it just doesn't happen?
Well, it's because it doesn't happen when it should, I guess. It's literally the opposite of some forms of ED, I suppose.
Well, this is the thing. Like, so erectile dysfunction is about your erection not functioning. Therefore,
Yes.
it's dysfunctioning.
Yeah, so this is functioning too well, in a sense. Not exactly, but in a sense.
No, well, I mean, anyway.
So mostly the condition, it is an actual disorder. It's a condition. It's known to be temporary. Many adults go through this once or twice in their lives without even realizing. It could be, they could be just thinking this person is not doing it for them, or their current session isn't all that it's meant out to be.
Okay, is this always with a partner though?
Not always. No, it could be anytime you're meant to ejaculate. So it could be while you're alone. It could be,
because the thing is, I'm wondering what if people confuse it for they think, oh, I have delayed ejaculation, but what if you just weren't horny enough?
That's the thing. Many, I think, and at least the research that I found is all about people thinking, or people that didn't know they had it, or people thinking they weren't horny enough. They weren't, that whatever they were doing, it just wasn't right for them at that time. So yes, actually, I found out that many adults go through this. Many normal adults go through this once or twice in their lives, but there are some people who actually sit with this for the rest of their lives, and they
just never get it.
Yeah, sometimes never. Sometimes entire half hours later, entire hours later.
No wonder you're saying they're victims.
Yeah, I call it victims because this is bad.
No pleasure.
Essentially. Well, it's pleasure. They're getting the pleasure.
Okay, but hold on. But you see, now this is interesting now. So
yeah,
we're talking about this, but this is from a male perspective.
Yes.
Or is this female as well?
I couldn't find anything that spoke about females.
Yeah, that's because most of the time ladies don't get anyway.
That's the thing.
So this is
that's the big thing, and also we'll be speaking more about lady pleasure in the next topic. But yeah, so what I found is essentially that it's not so much a thing about the mind as it is a thing. Or no, sorry, it is a thing about the mind. But no one knows how to treat this. And
the delayed ejaculation?
Yes. So what the researchers say bring it on, it could be anything from childhood trauma to, again, just your current situation, stress.
But now these are people who have consecutively tried, I imagine.
Yes.
For extended periods of time. So it's not just like a couple of days in a week you're not getting your rocks off. This is like a month, 2 months, and now you're starting to worry.
Well, yeah. Essentially, the only diagnoses that usually come from this are from men who are frustrated because they can't get their orgasms going.
So that's even worse, because I assume that you might already be stressed and frustrated.
Yes.
Then you're even more stressed and frustrated.
Yes.
And then that just adds to the stress and frustration.
Exactly. Like, imagine you're enjoying yourself having sex or whatever, and you're just never orgasming. And then you get tired and you get frustrated that it doesn't happen. And let's say you're doing it alone. You're masturbating. Your arms are getting tired, and your pee-pee is going limp because you're so tired and distressed now that it just never happens. And then you go to the doctor, and that's when you get diagnosed. Now, the issue with this diagnosis is that there is no way of treating it. The only thing they use to treat it is the usual medication for de-stressing and depression. And I specifically made note of 3 medications, which is Parkinson's medication, amantadine, anxiety drugs, which is buspirone, that's the main anxiety drug, and cifrophetidine, which is an allergy drug. That's what doctors usually prescribe for this, and sometimes they have results, most of the time they have not, or they do not have, rather. And it's actually a very, very sad thing.
Well, I mean, it's not nice, but again, you see, I'm wondering. I'm not saying this is not legitimate. I'm not saying this is not real.
Yeah.
But I would imagine it's not just for the odd where you can't do it. This would have
Yes.
to be for a prolonged period of time where
Yeah.
you actually now genuinely realize, okay, this is a problem.
Yes. Well, as I said, it's for many adults, it's temporary. You and I likely already experienced this in our lives once or twice before, and we didn't think anything of this.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, everyone, you go through different moods.
Yeah.
And, whether you're with a partner or you're not with a partner, maybe one day you'll have like 3 weeks where like you're on heat like the whole day.
Yeah.
And
just
you just
like
have to go and do
5
whatever you have
times
to
a
do
day.
multiple times a day if you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe there'll be other times where it'll be like a month where you just don't care.
Yep.
That's natural.
Yes.
It's not got nothing to do with, oh, now you're not well, or now you're, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So interesting, Ed.
Yeah.
But again, not what I thought it was.
No, it's definitely not what I thought. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is it's obviously a thing, and it's obviously not in many males, or at least what we know of. The research is not too broad about this. It's an actual diagnosis, though. It's an actual condition, but the research isn't there to give us enough stats. Anyway, I'm digressing.
Yes.
The big reason I brought this up is because it kind of does away with that stigma, with that cliche that the man is always just the one and done gender, just the one that can...
This was the last time you did this, and you subverted expectations, was when you mentioned the whole sleeping, the turning over and sleeping.
Yes,
where it actually turned out that it was a lot of ladies.
Yeah,
did it? Where the stereotype is that it's men.
Yeah, so it just made me thinking about that. Like, is the stereotype? Obviously, stereotypes come from a place of fact.
I think, I would say it's a bit different in this regard, because I do think that women and, the vagina requires a lot more of the right kind of stimulation.
Yes.
To really, be effective in achieving orgasm, which is very different to a guy. A guy is simple. There's not much going there.
Yeah.
Just rub the head a bit and hey,
you just tug a bit
time.
and it explodes,
or
it doesn't if you have this disorder, sadly.
Well.
For a woman, though, I want to speak about something else. And
oh, I see our favorite
person is back. Yes. Gwyneth's back, baby.
Yes. What does she have for us today?
Okay, so
other than her bergamot infused
vagina
what
candles.
else? What else does this wonderful woman have for us now?
So new on the block is the Goop vibrator. Now,
what now?
Vibrator.
A sex boob toy. Vibrator.
Goop.
Oh,
Goop.
Oh, Goop. Yes.
Yes, the company. So this is their first sex toy, and it's supposedly one of many.
That's actually surprising to me.
It is actually, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they would have had many by now.
Exactly. So,
and this is coming off the back of Victoria Beckham, because she's also entered into this kind of a market.
Last year already, just at the beginning of COVID, she went into sex toys. Because
you see, this makes a lot of sense with all the lockdowns you've been having.
Yeah.
Smart.
It's very smart. Very, very smart. Now, the thing is about this sex toy and about Goop in general, again, as always. Okay, so as we know, Goop is a bit ostentatious. They're a bit out there and kooky with their ideas. Now, this one comes from a place of she wants to help. Okay, I will say that much. She wants to do what is right by women.
She wants to make it something that is more accepted and doesn't look like a vibrator.
But the thing is, it does. It looks like two vibrators.
I haven't seen a photo.
Okay, so if you just tap on that link, you'll immediately see the photo. It literally looks like a fusion of two vibrators. So the idea behind this...
Well, I mean, for those of you who are listening, the bottom bit looks a bit like a carrot, but a white carrot with 3 nodules on the top, which are covered. Then it's got like a gold band and then like a pink ball on the top. So it kind of looks like a makeup thing, maybe. But
Nah.
or even like one of those weird massages.
Nah.
Which I guess it technically is.
To me, it looks like two big ass sex toys. I've seen both of these in action many times.
Look,
so,
I don't think it does look a little bit more nondescript. Let's go with that.
What would
but I mean, if that was lying on your table, on your bedside, there wouldn't be any questions as to what it is.
Exactly.
Like, for those of you who are watching the video, you'll know that if this thing that I'm holding up, you know what this is. There's no question as to what this is. This is this does not look like a vibrator.
No, it does.
And for those of you who are listening, it's a massage gun. It's
my nose
amazing.
keeps itching.
By the way.
So literally, she said, and I quote, she wants to create a vibrator that would not look embarrassing on a nightstand. Okay, fine, whatever. To me, it still looks like a sex toy, but you wouldn't be embarrassed to have it there. Okay,
it looks like ice cream.
Now,
like electronic ice cream.
Now, as we already covered, it has two ends. The first one is the normal inserting vibrator end, and the second one is the
the carrot part that I was describing.
Yes, and then the soft ball part is the normal one, which you use to stimulate your
pink
clitoris.
And fleshy.
And it has a total of 64 vibrational settings. Now, I don't know what settings you would have otherwise, but okay.
Well, my massage gun only has 30, so whatever.
Wow. Okay. Hans, please explain to me, Hans, what those different settings are, because I don't get it.
It just goes from less of a vibration to more of an intense vibration. That's really it.
30 times.
So let's say one would have the ball pumping against whatever body part you're putting on at a certain frequency, and then the higher it goes, the faster that goes. And the way that works on like muscles, for example, with the massage gun that I have, is the higher the number, the more intense the vibration, which therefore means the more you're pummeling that muscle into submission.
Okay. So,
or vagina, whatever you use it for.
So you can do that 30 times. This thing can do it 64 times.
Well, you know what? I let me tell you, I'm a big fan of level 30 with my massage gun, which everybody else in the house thinks is too high.
The fast one. That's the fast intense one.
No, it does. It's like imagine tenderizing meat.
Oh,
like the higher the vibration.
Okay, well, we're digressing. So one of the reasons for doing this, according to Gwyneth Paltrow, is that vibrators look hypersexualized. Okay, fine. They do, to be fair. Secondly, she added that they are either phallic or they look like something you would buy in a sex shop. Now...
Well, duh.
Exactly. I'm sorry, but how is that even a bullet point in selling this thing?
Looks a lot better than the others. She's not wrong, but it still looks like one.
So that's literally just her judging sex shops and normal sex toys. Because now she's saying, oh, that looks like skivvy. That looks like something you wouldn't want to walk into.
It's more along the lines of, do you want the apple of devices to give you an orgasm, or this ginormous looking cock on your bedside table? Because those are your options at the moment.
No, you still get the normal one with the soft ball as well, which literally just is this.
Gosh, Edward. Anyway. Now, for those who don't know, there's actually a difference between a vibrator and a dildo.
Yes.
So we've been speaking about a vibrator at the moment, but a dildo is actually something that doesn't vibrate. It's just normally like a single piece of silicone or metal or something. It's like one single thing. Well, Edward has tips on how to make your vibrator feel new again. Other than just charging the battery, right? Because for me, that would be like number one.
Yeah, like if it goes slow, maybe just change the battery.
Just put another battery in or charge it.
Plug it into a USB-C adapter or something. Yeah, so many women actually, and I did some Googling and some Redditing, because Reddit is a treasure trove of these kinds of complaints.
Always.
Many women, many women, at least what I assume to be women, or people that use vibrators.
Anyone who identifies as a female gender. Yeah.
They complain about their vibrators losing their potency. So I actually Googled this.
I'm actually curious that this is the first time you've heard of that.
Yeah, no, it is the very first time I've heard of it. But
I've actually had girlfriends talk to me about it.
Yeah.
and why. I remember one of them told me that she wouldn't allow, but she would only advise her daughter get one at much later on in life, because once you get used to that kind of stimulation,
Hmm.
you crave it, and it's almost like you need to have that, otherwise you don't reach your O.
See,
Whether or
maybe
not she's correct or not is another story, but
she could be very correct. I don't know about the suggest about getting it later part, but she could be very very true. Especially
well, you know what? Let me offer some advice.
Yeah.
All right, or rather, let me offer a personal experience, because this is what this podcast is about, right?
Yeah.
So, I am a user of a fleshlight. I have been for over a decade. I think they're fantastic sex toys for men, and I believe everybody should have one. And I can honestly admit that yes, because I'm used to it, the old slapstick hand just doesn't really do it anymore. So I would imagine it's more that. It's more you kind of get used to a particular sensation when you are ready to climax or on your way towards climaxing. And if you don't have that, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get there, I would say. Then again, of course, having said that, like if you don't use your toy for some period of time, trust me, your body goes back to normal, and then any kind of stimulation gets you there.
yeah, it's like anything. If you go 2 weeks without it, you're rehabilitated.
You're a born again virgin, y'all.
Yeah, and you can use that flashlight like you've never done before. Put some lube in there and have at it on setting 30 or whatever. So
No, they don't vibrate. Anyway.
Well, not all of them do.
Well, there is one you can get. Not that great.
Who uses air or whatever.
Oh, yes, that one.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. That was somewhere in season 1 we discussed that.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, getting back to making your vibrators new again.
So it turns out that according to many professionals, it might not be all about the vibrator. It's more about you, and that's
your state of mind.
That includes state of mind, state of body, essentially what you do while you are in the act of pleasuring yourself.
I mean, is that kind of obvious?
It is kind of obvious, but going by the amount of complaints I've seen, I think it is not as obvious. So I found this awesome post where they asked a sexologist. I keep forgetting that's a thing, but apparently it is. Sexologist
Fantastic.
Caitlin V, who is a resident at the sexual health company Royal, which is an amazing name, by the way.
Okay. Yes, it is.
Many other people tried to use that name and failed. Who said that literally the sensation of becoming numb, which is the biggest complaint. Many women would use their vibrators. They would try to stimulate the clitoris, and they would.
That would happen at too high a vibration,
I guess, or just getting used to it. That sensation.
No, you see what would happen is you keep going up the levels.
Yeah, like intense. Do it more and harder, better, faster. Oh, I already missed Daft Punk. They would become numb and they would complain about it. And the numbness would stem from, according to Caitlin or Mrs. V, which is an amazing surname. I don't think that's the full surname. Mrs. V says that it's all about getting used to it. It's the way you sit, the way you when you do it, how you do it. All of those factors play into how fast your clitoris and your state of mind gets used to all.
Play some good music, light a candle, dim the lights, trust your body.
Yeah, just be
know
sensual.
What you need.
But if you always do this, maybe it's time to change it up. Go at it hard. Put some heavy metal on.
Actually, this is going to be so bad, but I remember reading this green text. For those of you who follow Reddit, you'll know that green text is basically from 4chan, whereby people go and then they write stuff on there. And so this guy was talking about how And this is just occurred to me now while we're talking about this, because you're talking about, getting used to things and that. So this guy was talking about how, he lived with people or whatever, and he just figured that, every morning when he goes for his poop, he would rub one out. And he did this for a good amount of time, and then the one day, I think school was starting again, or university, or work, or something like that. And he went outside and accidentally slipped in some poop and got an erection because his body had associated
the smell.
that smell with, which is really weird in its own right.
Yeah,
but that's what the body does.
That's super weird.
So, maybe not make your room don't go too much effort, because you kind of want to be as minimal as possible. Because if you have to now put on this particular song by Celine Dion, and you have to burn this one particular candle to get off, you're gonna have problems.
Especially during the acts when you go home with your lady friend or whatever, because she might hate Celine Dion, and then she'll
the heart will go on or whatever,
and then you'll experience delayed ejaculation.
Oh yes.
Anyway, the point to all of this is to say that usually vibrators don't go bad and your body doesn't get used to it. It's more the fact that mindset.
I actually forgot that this whole point that you're making was how to make your vibrators feel new again.
Yes. So literally
So there's actually no tip here. There's no
the tip
there's no put it in the refrigerator or change the batteries.
No. The tip is to change little things. If you usually do it in your room when everyone's asleep.
Self-love.
If you're young and you need to do it in a house that's full of people and you do it when everyone's asleep, maybe put in some earbuds and try some music, as Hans said, or try it in a broom closet if you're alone. Just try to change things up, but not too drastically, because that's too much for your body.
Otherwise, you're going to end up in the ER as well.
Yes. Link to that,
which
episode.
We've already previously discussed.
I love the amount of link backs we have in this one, by the way. But if all else fails, it could be that your mind is just too into it. And no matter how much you want to...
Yeah, it's not your genitals, it's you.
Yeah. No matter how much you want to masturbate, maybe you should give it a little bit of a rest. And typically it's 2 weeks, and then your body is reset. That's how the body works. It's usually 2 weeks, 14 days. So just give yourself some me alone time without the hand time.
Give yourself some me time without giving yourself some me time.
There we go, some meat time, if you will.
And that's the end of NSFW.
Yeah.
Wow, Ed.
Good informational
This was a really, really long episode, but it was wonderful. Generally, I know we tried to keep our episodes to 1:30, but we saw the time and we were just like, nah, we're just going to go with it.
Yeah. 1 hour 40.
Because why not? Y'all love us. Y'all love this content, and you keep coming back.
Yeah. You're like one of those cool friends, I don't mean to make light of that. We do love.
But they're one of these. Y'all amazing.
Yeah,
y'all amazing.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, we just wanted to speak to you guys a little bit, and it's a few things we've been talking about, Edward and I, just in the background. When we discuss Gettle, that kind of thing. And we're at Gettle 48 technically, which is season 2, episode 7. Well, for episode 8 of season 2, it will be our 50th episode of Gettle. Now, many of you might not realize it, but we edit every episode, meaning, because, life happens. Sometimes we have people walk in, or, or phone rings, or Siri interrupt. There's a variety of different things. Yeah. And so I generally take several hours to edit every episode because, I listen to it and I make sure and I adjust the audio and make it sound good, that kind of thing. But what we've decided to do, the two of us, and I don't know if we'll regret it at a later stage, but I'm hoping we don't, because today's episode was actually legitimately good, with the exception of 1 or 2 interruptions that we had, is how we want to air episode 50 completely unedited. It'll just be us recording from the beginning to the end, all of the mistakes, if there are any, all of the interruptions, if there are many, and That's it. And we're actually genuinely excited and a little bit apprehensive.
Yeah, a little bit
for this. But I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be something to look forward to. And obviously, we're mentioning it now just in advance because we're just curious to know what you think. Are you keen to see what an unedited episode? Now, bear in mind, when I say unedited, I just mean from a cutting out perspective, not from an audio. I mean, we're still going to make the audio crisp because, I mean, what is a podcast without crisp audio?
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah. There was one or two other things that we were talking about, and that had to do with actually the structure of the episode. But we've come to realize that most of you really like how it is at the moment. And so instead of changing things up, which would have just basically been making it more conversational versus, the slight structure that we have, is we've just taken it upon ourselves to make it more conversational, despite the structure, as much as possible. Edward's looking at me like, what are you doing? This is too much TMI.
No. I actually dig this. It's good that the viewers know. I would love
I feel like, a lot of you write into us and you chat to us. So I figured let's just talk to you about it. And for those of you who we did reach out to personally, who gave us such great feedback in the last week or two, it's very much appreciated as always. And for our newer listeners, it's actually been really good. Like some of you have also reached out from all sorts of countries in the world. DMs, not necessarily public, which is perfectly fine and acceptable, and
always open.
It's just really nice. It's nice because we were checking our stats the other day, and Gettle in itself is very unique. It's very different to a lot of other podcasts out there, but you guys seem to enjoy it. So thank you, as always. Yeah, from myself and Ed. This is not. I'm saying it's like this is the end. This is like just the beginning.
We're going away forever and always. Hans is becoming a Pokemon master, and I'm home alone.
Yeah, so I'm ditching Edward for my Pokemon master dreams. What are you talking about? I'd probably take this with you and give you guys updates once a week.
Actually, yes, yeah. We'll be the Pokedex clan.
Well, this is the end of Gettle 48, Season 2, Episode 6, from myself and Edward. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Ciao for now.
Bye.